41 has no purport. Tam narada priyatamo riktadanam anuvrata shushrushamana shilena prashrayena damena cha. Translation. Narada, the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahma, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior, meekness, and sense control. 42. Mayam vividishan Vishnu Mayeshasya Mahamani Mahabhagavato Rajan Pitaram Paryato Shayat. Translation. Narada very much pleased his father and desired to know all about the energies of Vishnu, the master of all energies. For Narada was the greatest of all sages and greatest of all devotees, O king. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma, being the creator of all living beings in the universe, is originally the father of several well-known sons, like Daksha, the Chatusanas, and Narada, in 3 departments of human knowledge disseminated by the Vedas, namely fruit of work, Karma Kanda, transcendental knowledge, Jnana Kanda, and devotional service, Upasana Kanda. Devarshi Narada inherited from his father devotional service, whereas Daksha inherited from his father fruit of work, and Sanaka, Sanatana, etc. inherited from their father information about Jnana Kanda, or transcendental knowledge. But out of them all, Narada is described here as the most beloved son of Brahma because of good behavior, obedience, meekness, and readiness to render service unto the Father. And Narada is famous as the greatest of all sages because of his being the greatest of all devotees. Narada is the spiritual master of many famous devotees of the Lord. He is the spiritual master of Prahlad, Dhruva, and Vyas, down to the forest animal hunter Kirata. His only business is to turn everyone to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, all these features of Narada make him the dearmost son of his father. And all this is due to Narada's being a first-class devotee of the Lord. The devotees are always anxious to know more and more about the Supreme Lord, the master of all energies, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 9. Machchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katyantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, and his energies are also unlimited. No one can know them completely. Brahmaji, being the greatest living entity within this universe, and being directly instructed by the Lord, must know more than anyone within this universe, although such knowledge may not be complete. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to ask, about the unlimited Lord from the spiritual master in the disciplic succession of Brahma, which descends from Narada to Vyas, from Vyas to Shukadev, and so on. Okay, I'll just read both those verses again. Tam Narada Priyatamo Riktadana Manuvrata Shushrushamana Shilena Prashrayena Damena Cha. Narada, the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahma, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior, meekness, and sense control. 42. Mayam vividdishan Vishnu, Maheshasya Mahamani, Mahabhagavato Rajan, Pitaram Paryato Shayat. Narada very much pleased his father and desired to know all about the energies of Vishnu, the master of all energies. For Narada was the greatest of all sages and greatest of all devotees, O king. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Shatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakapaturubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Yes, so the story goes on, the description goes on from this point into the future a bit. And here particularly, as Prabhupada points out in the purport of verse 42, emphasis is being given to how Narada is the best of the sons of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, when you really get into it, Lord Brahma has many sons, daughters, children, because either directly or indirectly, he is the father of so many living entities. And therefore, in that sense, either directly or indirectly, all the inhabitants of the universe are related with Lord Brahma. Actually, all means even the Mauritians are related to Lord Brahma. Really, yeah, they're all coming ultimately from Lord Brahma. And if you were to look in the family tree, if you know what I mean, that sort of, what's the term? Anyway, you know what I mean. That sort of diagrammatic representation of the different generations, one after the other, of any particular family, you'd find Lord Brahma way back, long time ago. I mean, really a long time ago. You'd find Lord Brahma in everybody's family tree. Yes, of course, a lot of time has passed. Just like my father was kind of proud of the fact that he was descended in one, either directly or indirectly, frankly, but descended from Robert the Bruce, Have you heard of Robert the Bruce? You have not. I didn't expect you would have. You have not missed much. The last king of independent Scotland. How's that? Oh, yes. And every now and then he would tell me the story of how our family got our name, the family name, from Robert the Bruce. And occasionally I would say to my father that, my dear father, it doesn't really matter that much, because he was living about 700 years ago. So, it doesn't really make much difference. The connection is not that strong. So we're all descended from Lord Brahma, either directly or indirectly. Or, ultimately you can say directly. Yes, but the immediate children, there's a number who were special. Just in immediate terms, even while Lord Brahma was still living. Prabhupada points out here, Daksha, he was special. The 4 Kumars were very special. And Narada is very special. And you could say also Lord Shiva is very special. And there are others too. They're very special, but Prabhupada points out these 3, Daksha, the 4 Kumars, and Narada, because they are the leaders in 3 particular disciplines, very important disciplines. First of all, Daksha is the leader, or was the leader, in Karmakandya, fruit of work. Of course, we are not very, interested in fruit of work ourselves. Particularly in the sense of doing it. We're not very interested in that. But as it happens within the universe, fruit of work is extremely important and extremely prominent. The great majority of people, human beings at least, living within this universe, even today, 2023, even the vast majority of them, in one way or another, are involved in, focused on fruit of work. Whether it be in the ritualistic sense of actual karma kandya, or whether it be just in the sense of somehow or other working to get some fruits. But one way or another, it all falls under the broad heading of fruit of work, of course. Yes, so, and it is extremely common nowadays. The vast majority of people, the vast majority, are interested in fruit of work, first and foremost, and even you could say only. So, as an institution within the universe, karma kandya, or fruit of work, is at least very prominent. And in that sense, it's very important, because so many people are involved in it. Then there's jnana kanda, or transcendental knowledge. The 4 Kumars are the particular, you could say even acharyas of transcendental knowledge. Daksha was like an acharya. He was like engaged in karmakandya, fruit of work, exclusively, more or less 24/7, one way or another, he was engaged in some variation on the theme of working for fruitive materialistic results. So transcendental knowledge, jnana kanda, the authorities there are the four kamas. And they, when we talk about that jnana kanda or transcendental knowledge, we're referring to impersonal knowledge, jnana kanda, as opposed to devotional activity, which is just coming up just now. But they, of course, they became devotees in due course on the instruction of Narada Muni and by receiving the association of the Supreme Lord. They came to Vaikuntha and they hadn't seen the Lord yet, but they were looking for him because Narada had said, when you go there, you must look for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they were looking, but they hadn't seen him yet. But then as he was approaching them, it's a bit of a long story, of course, because it involves the story of the cursing of Jaya and Vijaya by them, by the four kamas. So there are a number of sort of twists and turns in the story. But as they were waiting for the Lord, the fragrance from the tulsi on his feet was carried by a breeze, carried to them before they saw him. The Lord was still at a distance coming, but the breeze was carrying the aroma of tulsi from his lotus feet. And the four kamas smelt that and became devotees. Yeah. Having been impersonalists. Yes. So anyway, so they're very important, particularly in the field of jnana kanda, in the sense of impersonal, spiritual knowledge, which is quite different from the knowledge of karma kandya, although in its own way it has importance, as we mentioned. So then there's a third, Prabhupada says, a third department of human knowledge. This is called upasana kanda. Upasana basically means to worship. It means in a formal type of sense, like offering arati, that sort of sense, particularly. And, of course it includes, but not so specifically, but it does include just worship, like in the informal sense, like chanting our japa, preaching to people, cooking for the Lord. These types of activities, of course, they are parts of devotional service, but not in the formal, or you could say ritualistic sense. That upasana kanda is more particularly in that ritualistic sense, like offering arati and things of that sort. So that is placed here. Prabhupada places that under the heading, upasana kanda, under the heading of devotional service. And who is the authority in that field? Let us see if any of you, some of you, how many of you are listening. Who is the authority in that field? Narada Muni, well done. Yes, Narada Muni is the authority in the field of devotional service. And Prabhupada makes the point, he makes the point. He doesn't really emphasize it so strongly, but he makes the point that Narada is the spiritual master of many famous devotees. And it's very interesting if we look through when, not if, but when we read through Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very interesting to see how many of these great devotees whose stories are told, even, at some length, like over a number of chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam, how many of them are disciples of Narada Muni. Prabhupada mentions here Prahlad, Dhruva, and Vyas. Yes. And then down to the forest animal hunter, Kirata. Yes, so, and there are others too. There are others. You can have a look through and see how many people Narada is the spiritual master of, and how many people, in that sense, how many people's lives he has revolutionized. Can anyone tell me another one? Prahlad, Dhruva, Vyas, the hunter. How about Prachinabarhishat is one, important one, in the 4th canto. Any other offers? Anyway, I suggest, how's this? You're all students in Krishna consciousness. Was that someone saying a name? Well, that's the hunter. That's the hunter. Who? Vishwamitra. I guess so. Sorry? Valmiki. Valmiki, yes.
Hanuman as well.
Hanuman, I don't know about Hanuman so much. But at least as things are discussed in the Bhagavatam, here's a suggestion for you. Why don't you do a little research and find out? Yeah. Students. Prabhupada wanted us to study the Bhagavatam like students, taking notes and, going back over the notes and really taking it within. So anyway, this is the thing. The point in principle Prabhupada's making is that, there are these different sons of Lord Brahma. Lord Shiva's another one, who is not mentioned here, but obviously Lord Shiva's important. But Narada Muni is more important than Lord Shiva, generally, because his service as a demigod, fulfilling people's material desires, is not very important. In a transcendental sense, it's definitely not very important. But Narada Muni just again and again and again, he's preaching to people. And basically everyone who he preaches to, at least as mentioned in the Bhagavatam, they all become transformed. Really transformed. Like Prachinabarhishat in the 4th canto, that's where we find Narada Muni telling the story of Puranjan. That's an important part, important story, important part of the Bhagavatam. It's very interesting how I was just reading it, a couple of months ago now, a few months ago, like 3 or 4 months ago, or something. The story of Prachinabarhishat and how Narada explains the story of Puranjan to him. And you know what happens is Narada is preaching to Prachinabarhishat, and it all sounds very good. I mean, it sounds fantastic actually. But you get to almost the end, just right at the last point or thereabouts, and Narada checks to see if Prachinabarhishat is convinced. And Prachinabarhishat says, no, I'm not convinced. So Narada has to continue, and eventually Prachinabarhishat is convinced. Normally it doesn't take so much hard work to convince them, but sure, Prachinabarhishat, he was a tough customer. So yes, so Narada is the most beloved son of Lord Brahma. And why is he the most beloved? Well, because of his good behavior, his obedience, his meekness. Meekness basically means humility, and his readiness to render service unto his Father. So just consider, devotees, that these are 4 particular good qualities which endear a devotee to, say, to the spiritual master or to superiors. Good behavior, obedience, meekness, readiness to render service. My suggestion today, of course, first suggestion, is you check through the Bhagavatam. Even if you just look through the table of contents, you'll be able to pick up where Narada Muni appears and preaches to people and makes them into devotees from having been, in other conditions. So, but then, this development of these good qualities is very important. Good behavior, obedience, meekness, and readiness to render service unto the Father or unto the superiors. These are very important qualities for us devotees would be hoping to become better or hoping just to become devotees. It's important to figure out what you're meant to do to become Krishna conscious. Yes. Of course, we all know we're meant to chant Hare Krishna. That's a good start. But we're meant to do more than just chant Hare Krishna. To really become qualified, to be accepted by the Parampara as ourselves members of the Parampara, rather than just sort of, onlookers or people like that. Yes, so we should cultivate these qualities. We should learn these qualities and learn how, for example, Narada Muni here particularly, and others, how they displayed, how they had those qualities. And then if we see how they had and what they did in which they displayed those qualities, we can learn how to learn at least, and step by step come to the point of displaying those qualities ourselves. Because Krishna consciousness is not just, like in English there's the word rote, R-O-T-E. It means you just repeat things like a machine. Press the button, suddenly you start repeating verses and things. Of course, it's a lot better than nothing. But we shouldn't just be like Krishna conscious machines. We should really take these things into our hearts. And to really take them into our hearts, it really helps to see how others have taken them into their hearts and how they're displaying them in not those sort of rote ways, just press the button and the person starts repeating things or acting in certain ways. But actually to take them into the heart and for them to be like essential parts of our transformations as persons, to become different persons. Yes. So there you go, devotees. All these features, these good qualities, his behavior, obedience, meekness, readiness to render service, then his preaching to particularly Prahlad, Dhruva, Vyas, and the hunter. These things are mentioned. And how his only business is to turn everyone to the devotional service of the Lord. We should note, Prabhupada says, therefore, all these features of Narada make him the dearmost son of his father. And it's all due to, what's the foundation of it all? It's all due to his becoming a first-class devotee. Yeah. Yes, first-class devotee of the Lord. Because Narada, the second of these two verses here, Narada, among other things, he really wanted to know about the energies of Lord Vishnu. He didn't just want to know about the pastimes in the sense of, in Vrindavan, the Rasa Leela, and pastimes with the cowherd boys and the cows and his parents. Narada was really interested to understand the energies of the Lord. This is another feature, endearing feature. Interested to know about, the intricacies of the Lord and how the Lord conducts himself, what the Lord does. Yes. So therefore Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying that thus it is the duty of everyone to ask about the unlimited Lord from the spiritual master in the disciplic succession of Brahma, which descends from Narada to Vyas, from Vyas to Shukadev, and so on, and down to you, down to all of us. We all, each one of us, has our parts to play in this whole process. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comments or questions? Words of wisdom? agreement, disagreement.
Devotees don't have questions. Let them ask.
Okay, let them ask. Okay, all of you, nice devotees, intelligent, thoughtful devotees. Anyway, maybe you can get them going.
Yesterday I was thinking whether it is good to ask questions, to always ask questions, but here it is in the last sentence of the purport, it is said that it is said here in the purport that the devotee should be anxious to know about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is the duty of everyone to ask about the Lord from the spiritual master.
Yes.
So this encourages me to put a question.
You should.
From yesterday's class,
Okay.
where it is said that, from what I understood, that you should be a pure devotee in order to go for preaching, in order to undertake preaching activities. From yesterday's from what I understood,
Okay.
then, since we are also more or less engaged in preaching activities in one way or the other, can we say that it is because we are connected with Srila Prabhupada, with you, this con that we have this authority on this to do this?
Yes, you can definitely say that it's because we're all connected with Srila Prabhupada. There's absolutely no doubt. And that's kind of like, the root. There may be other elements arguably in the picture, but that's what's holding the whole picture together. And yes, the connection with Srila Prabhupada.
Because as far as I am concerned, I don't think I am a pure devotee. So because we are connected with Srila Prabhupada with you, we can do it.
Yes. Well, none of us should think, even if we are, which we are likely not to be, but even if we are pure devotees, we shouldn't think we're pure devotees. We should think we're aspiring devotees or aspiring to become proper devotees, like that. But Prabhupada is definitely a pure devotee. And because of our connection with him, if we just faithfully represent him, we don't have to become big expert intellectuals, like clever presenters, you could say, in order to be effective as preachers. But rather we should be faithful. And as Prabhupada said, he mentioned these qualities, the 4 qualities: good behavior, obedience, meekness, readiness to render service. These are very fundamental, foundational qualities. Like another one, but not as foundational or fundamental, is, for example, to become expert in presenting Sanskrit verses to substantiate whatever points we may be making or trying to make. But it's not as important. It's important. It's not as important as these very foundational ones. Meekness, readiness to render service, as requested, like that. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama.